So what is the issue with a wood lathe? For left-handed turners, that is. To start with, they are a right-handed machine. In other words, 90% of wood turners are right-handed, 10% are left-handed. How can you sort that out? Well, you just stick with spindle work. Is that what you want to do? Or would you like to also make some bowls? I'd like to make some bowls. I'm left-handed, and I stumbled across a product called a MOLLYDOOKER. And I'm going to show you what it can do for me, and what it can do for you left-handed turners out there, especially beginners, because that's what I am. I've had a lathe for a long time, but as far as bowl work goes, I've made do, so that's putting me in the beginner bracket. What can we do about it? Let's have a look. My lathe is turned off. Belt's taken off. I got one of the original stubbies, V-belt. What's the issue? Left-handed tool. Whoop, they're tight, aren't they? Nice and tight. Let's take this chuck off for a moment. What am I doing to take it off? Oh, I'm turning the shaft that direction. And off she comes. I want to put a chuck on. I'm a right-handed turner, for example. Not a problem. Turn that on a little bit. Let's get it started. Don't cross-thread these. There it goes. If I hold the chuck still, as if I've put a chisel to the work, or a gouge to the work, but the shaft's turning toward me. What's happening? That chuck is actually going on. It's getting tighter and tighter and tighter. Hits the bottom. It's there. All the time that lathe's turning this way, that chuck will not screw off. You could stop it with a lock it into something. It will not come off. How do they get them off? They crack them off, don't they? Right? It's loose. You turn the spindle the other direction. You hold your chuck so you don't drop it. Don't turn your chuck, you end up dropping it. You turn the shaft. All of a sudden, it's free. Well, if I want to stand around where the camera is as a left-handed turner, so that I'm holding my gouges, my chisels, in my dominant hand, my left hand, I've got to turn that way. And what did we just decide? That turning it that way unscrews the chuck. Now I've had a steel left-handed threaded faceplate fly off of one of my other lathes, and it is not a nice experience. It flew across the garage. This is what, 6.5, nearly 7 metres deep, up against the back wall. It flew and bounced off, hit the garage door. It had that much speed and force. I don't like that. I'm not going to, therefore I have stuck with spindle work. And one day I happened to be looking at the new Stooty wood lathes. I went to have a look because I thought that looks like my stubby. When I got there, and I'll explain these things later, the differences were profound. But we'll get to that in a minute. Why did I get one of their products? In fact, I got 2 of them. Why did I get their products? Because it will help me as a left-handed wood turner. In Australia, and that's where I am, left-handers are called MOLLYDOOKER, so it's a great name for their product, the MOLLYDOOKER. Now let's see how it's going to work. So what is the answer to the problem? The answer is the MOLLYDOOKER. Lovely. Beautifully machined by Stooty. Hope that's focusing for you. I went to have a look at Stooty's new, I think it's, what is it called, a 3040 lathe, wood lathe. I saw comments on YouTube saying, oh, it just looks like a rebadged stubby. What they've done is they've taken the good parts from a stubby, made some of them better, and they've ironed out some of the issues with the stubby. I have seen their new Stooty lathe. I have the stubby. I was able to compare them directly. Mine's got a 2 horsepower motor, that's got a 3. And I can tell you the castings, they are thicker. But anyway, getting back to our problem, for left-handed turners, the correction being, well, the problem solver being Stooty's MOLLYDOOKER. Well, I've got 2 of them. I'll show you how I'm going to set them up. That screws into the end of that. They supplied the rod. Now, I've bought rod in the past. Now, I'll tell you what, it's never been the quality of this one. This is straight, nice thread on it. Came with the washers, the nuts, the lot. But how do we put it into the chucks? Putting it into my Vicmark VM 120, straightforward. It will fit. You can even leave it. You can't leave the nut on there. You won't get it through. You won't get it through the spindle. So you need those off. Slides down in there, all the way, and it's in. You would slide that through your spindle, which we'll do that in a moment. Put the washer on, put the nut on, nip it up. If you're anything like me, I spoke to the engineers from Stooty, being Peter. He said, oh, well, you probably don't need that, but no, he said, you don't need that, because the whole thing's turning in the shaft. But typical me, overkill. The locking nut, I don't want that coming off. Peter said it won't. Well, an engineer knows more than I do about these things. You want to learn to rock and roll dance, well, I can tell you a lot about that. So we'll have a look at that one in a moment. But it's the Vicmark 100. That's the one that you can't do that to. And the reason is the chuck jaw mechanism won't allow it. Looking down in through there, hope that's focused. You slide that in there, you can't close the jaws. So that would make that inoperable. So what do we got to do? Before we get to what are we going to do, let's explain a couple of things about these inserts that hold the chuck to my lathe. Now, everything I'm going to tell you is my opinion, because my safety is my issue, your safety is your issue. Prior to having my stubby lathe, I had a wood fast lathe. These different thread, 1 by 10. Now for the Americans, 1 inch by 10 threads per inch. For metrified countries like Australia became, the thread on the stubby is an M30, the Australian stubby. I don't know about the American stubby. I do know the American Vicmarks, I believe, are M32s. So that screws onto the shaft, that screws into my chuck. I'm going to show you a major difference here. This came from Vicmark, both did. When I purchased this first time round, it came with that. I don't know who makes those, but that's what came with it. I rang Vicmark because I didn't know how to get that out. I rang them and they said undo the grub screws, and I'm thinking, I can't see a grub screw. Anyway, I got it off. When my new chucks, my new inserts turned up, there was the grub screw. And what that does, that locks. Start again, it doesn't lock anything. It prevents or reduces the possibility of this unscrewing. You can see where it marks it a little bit. You screw it in. First you want to make sure that the grub screw is not protruding. Threads are clean, that's all clean. Screw that in. You lock it in gently with a this is a 3mm. Don't know what that is in imperial. Well, if there's 25mm to an inch, you guys can work that out. Now, I didn't tighten that up very much. I'm not overdoing it. There's just pressure on it, a little bit of pressure. And I have tried. I screwed that onto my lathe. Shaft in there. I locked the spindle. And then I got hold of this and I tried to unscrew it. I could not. Therefore, I believe that with all this device here, with this device, I can spin this in reverse and it will not come off. The big chuck, slide it in, put it all together on your thing, easy. This one, different. I'm going to take the insert off. So let's put it together. That's going to be on my lathe. That's going to be in there. I will go over the top, screw down into there. Oh, let me just show you something before we do that. See how it locks up against there? Why would you want a Morse taper, I thought? Well, that helps line it up on your spindle. They got a Morse taper, if you remember. That's going down into there. Just take the pressure up a little tiny bit. Screw down your grub screw. Won't over tighten this one. If I had the threaded rod out, it wouldn't be an issue. Which you can do. You can take the threaded rod out because you can feed this on the lathe. The important thing is that that Morse tapered part is down in there. Nip it up. Don't overdo it. We'll take that over to the lathe. But I have to turn camera off. Let's attach it all to the lathe. I'm going to lock my spindle. Now, one thing about these old stubby lathes, you can't shut that lid with the spindle lock on. Take our chuck with our MOLLYDOOKER into it. Slide that on. Start winding it. Whoop, we won't be winding that. We can wind this. Now, oh, that's binding. Why is that? And that's the tape. That's where the Morse taper comes in handy. Look at that. Now she's going on. It's in. Check that my thread's sticking out a bit. I won't over tighten it. It's on, I can take it off. I can take it off if I had the tool. Let's get the tool. You've all had that issue, haven't you? You've got to crack it a little bit. Comes on and off. Snap it on a bit and they lock. That's all well and good for right-handers because they're turning, the lathe's turning that way. Oh, I've got the lock on, haven't I? The lathe's turning that way. It's getting tighter and tighter and tighter. Oh, you've seen them. You've seen those professionals. They get on there and they thump down on it. Gets on tight. Anyway, lock the shaft. Lock the spindle. I suppose if you're keen, give it a little nip. I don't think you need it. But then again, that's my opinion. We've got our MOLLYDOOKER in there, sticking out the end. Get our washer. I suppose you could put a spring washer too if you wanted to. Put your finger in there so you don't push the rod through. Spanner, the appropriate size, in my case 16mm, tighten her up, I'm not putting too much pressure on it, don't want to damage anything. Let's see what happens. Shaft is locked. Now this only comes off if you've got it in reverse and you stop that chuck. If that was in reverse and you held that chuck, come off, and that's what the chisels are doing. Gouges, they're holding it. Now, I can't turn that. I don't want to overforce it, but I'm not gonna. I would have to, I reckon, wrench, and I think that'll get tighter. That is on there. So let's disengage the spindle lock. Move it out of the way so I can put the belts back on. I run mine in usually low gear. Even the new ones, they've got two ratios. Lower the motor. Check that my belt's not too tight. No, it's not. I've got my head in the way, have I? Shoulder in the way. Lock that down. The new ones have got better things for that. Close my lid. Bring my controller around to the other side. When I got this lathe, it didn't have a controller. Had reverse. It had variable speed, it just didn't have this on there. That was a $500 upgrade. I changed all the bearings in it, plugging my lathe back in, turning it on. Always set mine to lowest speed possible. Good thing that's not locked because I can't shut the door with that spindle lock. Oh, I should be around there, shouldn't I? Let's stop that. Put her in reverse. The new ones, you don't have to do this either. With a new Studi, you don't even have to come around here. It's on the controller. Stop me lathe rattling. That's the chuck tools. Stop that, tighten the jaws up. Make yourself one of those. I was watching Richard Raffin, Australian wood turner. Been doing it for years. I've noticed he's got these. I thought, well, good enough for Richard Raffin. Good enough for me. Jaws are set tight. Alright, that's slow. Low ratio, slow speed. I believe in low ratio, it's probably around about 1500. I operate my lathe mainly at that speed. I have gone faster. It's change ratio. I don't just stop it and change the belt. Disengage power, and if you're extra cautious, which I am, turn it off at the wall as well. And as I said on the new ones, the device down here is much easier to release the motor. Put it on high gear, high ratio. Let's see what speed she'll sound like. Let's see what it goes like then. Drop the motor. A suggestion made by the engineer at Studi Lathes was try a link belt in your lathe. They're not real dear. Australian, I think it's $30, $40. It's under $40 on their website. I'm going to try one of those. That's a goer. Shut my lid. I know the shaft's not locked because I can't shut the lid if it is. There it is there. Now, back down to low speed. There's a postie. Keep going. Turn her on. Oh. Safety feature. Turn her on at the wall. Turn it on at the lathe. Fire it up. Low speed. Low speed, high range. Now that will be going twice as fast, I would think. Let's crank that out. I believe they do around about 3,000. I was getting ready to make something. I should put a date on it. I don't know how many years ago it was that I started fiddling. I think that's Australian ironbark. Red ironbark. They got white and red. Open up the jaws. Already made my tenon. I wonder if it's shrunk. Let's get a centre. Let's get a revolving centre. Like the top with a little cup in there. Let's see what happens. Oh, I'm going to have to rotate that now, aren't I? I'm going to have to set my lathe up for turning over here. There's no centre mark in that. I wasn't expecting to do that. Leave that loose for a minute. Now you tell me why I can't stand here, reverse my banjo, why can't I work here? Look, left-handed spindle work. Standing around there is probably a great idea for spindle work because that'll be around here, I'll be around the other side. Bowl work. I can still hold my chisels in my left hand, and that's where, as a left-hander, you get your control from. Imagine you're a left hand and you want to do this. It just don't feel right. Let's crank her up. Spins free. We're on slow. Let's take that off for a minute. Let's stop that for a moment. Got a bit of age behind that now. She's moved a bit. Much easier to use with that. What I've done, other spindle work when I'm around the other side, I have that loose. I bring this up. And what it's doing now, it's pushing it against the back of those jaws. Lock me thing, lock me thing. Let's see if it runs any better. Then tighten that up. See if it looks any better, shall we? She's moved. Let's wind her up. Now, I know it's hard for spindle work to come off with a tailstock there. If that was a bowl and you're finishing it off, oh, obviously you're not going to go that fast. I feel comfortable. Oops, back that off. They say buy a stubby, you've got it for life. I bought this second hand from a 94-year-old production turner. He'd had it in his shed, he'd gone blind, he couldn't see anymore. I think he would have liked to have kept it. Got a feeling he was almost crying when it was going. Hadn't been used in his shed for many years. There was a lot of surface rust on it. I've cleaned it all up. I paid, what, $2,500 for this. That's Australian dollars. I don't know what that is in American. I believe it's, what, 64, 70 cents American for $1 Australian. I usually say, oh, 1.5. So divide this by whatever to get down to American dollars. But the issue with getting a second-hand stubby, as they say, they got them for life. Well, this man was 94 years old. He didn't want to get rid of it. You get one of these, you won't get rid of it. Unfortunately, they no longer, I'm led to believe, that the stubby is no longer made. And I'm glad that Greg and Peter Stute have taken over and made an improved version. Improvements in how bigger motor, nice controllers. I believe they've upgraded the VFD. They've retained these features. Taking that little pin out. Move my banjo. The thing I got to do now is rearrange my shed. The shop, as the Americans would say, to suit this. You do this with a Stutey as well. How versatile is that going to be for bowl work? Now the Studi have done something with their banjo as well. I've got 2 banjos, and that's how this one came. Where the tool post goes. I hope you can see this. No, you don't see any of that, do you? Let's angle it a little bit for you. Look, it wants to creep back. Saying I'm getting a flat battery. But it's getting back to what I said, the Studi. You can do this on the Studi as well. You can angle all this. Imagine a big bowl on there. I can push it out here, lock it down, all sorts of good stuff. But the important thing for me was being able to stand around this side of the lathe. I don't know whether that'll make you feel sick. This side of the lathe, spin the work toward me and not have that fly off. No, I don't think it will. Power off, power off. Oh, I can't move it. Thanks Greg and Peter for making this product. There'll be a lot of left-handed turners out there think, I want one of those. I'm glad I've got them. Thank you. Hope that was a lot of help. Get in touch with Peter or Greg. Look at their website.